Welcome to everybody. I'm glad to see you. I presume we'll get some more people coming in here soon. And I see a few new people, I believe. So I'm going to introduce myself, Gary Gillette, president of now the Southern Michigan chapter. I want to say the Detroit chapter, but we merged with West Michigan, and we're now the Southern Michigan chapter. Um, so I think everyone's familiar with the format. I believe we have we have four of the teams represented here. I don't see the person who's supposed to talk about the Twins. Somebody new that I don't know, but presumably he will join us shortly. So the format is going to be each team will have a representative talk for up to 7 minutes about their season, and after that, we're going to go to open Q&A. Um, the order of the teams will be in the order of finish in the AL Central, meaning the Guardians will lead off. I'll try not to say Indians at any point during the meeting.
It's hard.
And it is hard. It is hard.
Quarter in the jar every time you say it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, and I will introduce the team spokespeople when we get to that team. So to start, I'm going to say I thought it was a fascinating season. Maybe I just the bias toward immediacy, but I thought this was a really fascinating season. And it'll be fascinating to see what plays out with the Blue Jays and the Dodgers, especially since we've now been told by many, many pundits that this has a lot of bearing on the collective bargaining negotiations coming up soon. Um, I have to admit, I'm fascinated watching the Dodgers. They're such an impressive team, and I never would have expected they would underperform like this year during the regular season. But it won't much matter if they win the World Series. And I am glad to see the enthusiasm in Canada for the Blue Jays. Uh, I first went to ALCS game in Toronto. I think it was in '89. Um, and the excitement there was just amazing, absolutely amazing. Um, and when the Blue Jays won their two World Series, the second was over the Phillies. I was in Philadelphia, and that was really a big deal. I always thought it was a mistake the Major League Baseball moved the Expos out, but at least the Blue Jays are now Canada's team, and I think legitimately so. All right, so I pontificated enough. So we're going to start off tonight with a recap from the Guardians and Vince Guerreri, the loquacious and estimable. I won't say gentleman, but he's got lots of good things to say. Very smart, knows his Cleveland baseball history. Vince, it's yours.
Great, thank you. I'm delighted to be here. I hope that you are all making plans to come to SABR 54 next summer in Cleveland. I'm sure we will have a rollicking good time. We're already in the early planning stages with the National SABR organization, and we're doing the best that we can to put on a good conference. I also want to wish you all a very happy Sports Equinox Eve. Tomorrow is one of those rare instances on the calendar when all four Major League sports will be in action. You've got Game 3 of the World Series, Monday Night Football, and regular slates in hockey and the NBA. So, with that in mind, I am going first this evening, which is kind of a surprise from where we were when last we chatted shortly after the All-Star break.
Absolutely.
It looked like the Guardians had kind of pulled the nose up a little bit. I believe they'd won six of their last seven going into the break. They were still, not necessarily in the hunt. They were in second place, but it felt like everybody in the division was playing for second at best. The trade deadline was a very interesting one for the team. They traded Shane Bieber to the Blue Jays for Cal Steven. Cal is a fairly highly regarded right-handed pitching prospect. He is in Double A, I believe, and it sounds like he's not quite Major League ready, but we'll see how that trade panned out. in a couple of years. Bieber, we were actually very surprised that Bieber stayed in Cleveland this year. I see Joe Shaw on the chat. We were at a SABR meeting in the off season, and one of the reporters from the Plain Dealer had led us to believe that he had one foot out the door at the end of last year. But Shane Bieber ended up staying with the Guardians. Spent his year in with Cleveland rehabbing. There was a little bit of a setback, so we didn't even get to see him pitching for the parent club at any point before he was dealt. Not traded was Stephen Kwan. His name had appeared in some trade talks, and but I'm not sure how much of that was chatter that was ginned up by others, because the Guardians are very good at keeping all of their trade talks very close to the vest. The biggest potential trade asset was probably going to be Emmanuel Clase, but right before the deadline, he was placed on administrative leave in the same gambling investigation that ensnared Luis Ortiz for the Guardians at the beginning of July. The Guardians got to 5.5 games back on August 12th, but then went 2-10 after that, and it looked like they were going to fade. They were in third place at one point and 10.5 games back as September started. They actually went on a heater in September, and it was unprecedented what Stephen Vogt was able to do with his starting rotation. As I said, the bullpen was kind of questionable because Clase wasn't around. They were still trying to go to closer by committee, but he was able to use that extra roster spot that you got in September to go to a six-man starting rotation of Tanner Bybee, Gavin Williams, Slade Ciccone, who had come over in a trade in the offseason, Logan Allen, Parker Messick, and Joey Cantillo. And they were all stellar. I mean, they were brilliant. There was a stretch of, I think, 20 games where they went where they did not give up. They gave up 2 runs or fewer in each respective start. I mean, they just it was an astonishing September. And it got to the point where, a lot of people started to think, hey, they might not get a wild card spot. They might win the division. And as it turns out, that is precisely what happened. They clinched a playoff spot on the in the penultimate game of the season, which they won against Texas by a walk-off hit by pitch with the bases loaded. And I think my favorite part of that is how people in Houston suggested that there was a conspiracy afoot, that the Rangers tanked that so Houston would be mathematically eliminated from the postseason. And then on the last day of the season, the Guardians won the division with another win over the Rangers. And the Guardians ended up, they were the lowest seeded division champions. They met the Tigers again in the wild card series. And at that point, their luck kind of ran out. The Guardians were never a really good offensive team in the season, and that was really laid bare in that series. Obviously, it was kind of a tall order to expect to beat Tarek Skubal 3 times in 3 weeks. They were unable to do so. Won the second game, lost the third and deciding game in the series, and that was the extent of the season. I am unclear what the offseason is going to bring, because the Guardians have never been really active in the free agent market, and I'm not sure what kind of tradable assets we have. The most notable trade asset is probably Stephen Kwan, and there's already, talk about, are they going to be able to re-sign him? And the answer is probably no, given the Dolan's penuriousness. But what is so it's entirely possible that he might be dealt at some point in the off season. And beyond that is anybody's guess.
Okay. Well, thanks, Vince. And you were right at mid-season. I was too confident. Although although I will say that there's a reason to be confident when it took something that's never been done before in Major League Baseball history to beat the Tigers, for the Guardians to beat the Tigers.
Yes,
Right?
it was unprecedented.
Right. And that means it's 2 years in a row the Tigers have done unprecedented stuff, which is in and of itself remarkable. But they deserve to lose the division, and I think they did as well as they could. I was surprised, and I shouldn't be stepping on Mitch's comments. Mitch is going to speak for Detroit, Mitch Lutzke, that there was so much vituperation in Detroit over the end of the season. You would have thought the club had not won anything in 20 years, and that it was a over-the-hill gang of bitter, crusty veterans. The way people were lashing out on the sports talk shows when the Tigers went, well, they didn't go in the tank, they simply played badly. To me, there's a difference. They were trying as hard as they could. And then, of course, when they won the wild card series, everyone's feeling their oats again. And then they ran into a better team. So, Mitch, this is Mitch Lutzke. Um,
And took them to the limit.
Yeah, they played the Mariners tough. They have nothing to
yeah,
do
they
with
did. No,
that.
no. That's the thing. Is it like people are accusing them of choking? Choking,
No,
one
that wasn't
bounce, one
choking.
pebble, one sixteenth of an inch on a pitch or on a swing, and the result is different. They played as well as I think they could and should, and hopefully they'll do better next year. But I'm still, again, Mitch, I'm going to introduce you. Mitch Lutzke, our Southern Michigan guru, is the world's foremost historian on the Page Fence Giants from Adrian, Michigan. All around good guy. Take it away, Mitch.
Thank you, Gary. I put an attachment in the chat if you want to look at that.
You sure
We're
did.
going to explain the euphoria that we went from August of 2024 with the 0.2% chance of the playoffs, going to the playoffs, and then starting the first 4 months of this year. Things like the 27 Yankees will be behind us. Surely the Mariners win total of 2001 will be behind us. We went 18-9 in April of this year. That's 667. People said, well, you can't get better than that. Well, in May, they went 19-9, which was a 679. So we were planning on the World Series. We had 6 All-Stars, and right around the All-Star break, we got a little shaky. We were 11-14 in July, and we had dropped several games before the All-Star break, but it was just how long could the Tigers continue to win at this pace? And of course, as you remember, we were the slam dunk team to win the division. Everybody else was going to be getting our scraps. Then we decided to completely fall apart in the second half. And I made a little chart that you can probably open up. But I just took our 6 All-Stars, and the Tigers had all these games in the first half of the year that absolutely everything went right. Jake Rogers was our starting catcher. We called up a guy from AAA, Thomas Nido. He batted like .334 in 10 games and won us a couple of games as a third string catcher. We had the famous Brewer Hicklin game, who played 1 game for us this year, 3 for 4, stole a base, made some plays, and won. Every time we needed a pinch hit, it was just magic. AJ Hinch, was going to be sent to the Hall of Fame during the season. We got 6 guys, as I said, in the All-Star game. Zach McKinstry at utility, Gleyber Torres, a free agent signing at second base, Riley Green left field, and then Javi Baez resurrected his career after having hip surgery last August and was the starting center fielder for the American League. And then Tarek Skubal and Casey Mize was starting pitchers. And these guys are playing out of their minds, and then they didn't. And everything that they were doing in the first half, they basically at the plate could not come through in the second half. So just to give you an example, Zach McKinstry was batting .285 at the All-Star break. His slugging OPS plus was .836. His wins created was .132. What did he regress after the All-Star game? He batted .213. His OPS was .656. His wins created was 81. Gleyber Torres, our big free agent signing, $15 million for a year. He probably will not be back. He's getting hernia surgery. He was at .281. OPS was .812. On base was .387. He was a .131 WRC plus. He managed to bat .223 in the second half. He was a WRC plus of 88. and his on base went from 387 to 320. Riley Green, who hit 36 homers and 111 RBIs. First half was OPS was 879. He was wins created was 141. In the second half, he hit 279 and had 90 WRC plus, but he regressed and he set the team record in strikeouts. He beat Cecil Fielder's club strikeout record by over 20. He struck over, I think it was 201 times. Javi Baez was batting 310 at the All-Star break, 108 WRC plus. After the break, he batted 230, or 223 rather. His on base was 230. His WRC plus was 46, one of the worst in the American League at that time. The pitchers got a lot of grief and the bullpen because Scott Harris, at our GM, picked up at the trade deadline 7 relievers, of which 1 made 2 appearances and they cut him. 3 stayed in AAA. Kyle Finnegan was good, but the pitchers really didn't change too much. Scooble's ERA went from 223 to 218. His strikeouts went from 11.3 to 10.55 after the break. His whip went from 0.83 to 1. Batting average was 210 in the second half. Casey Mize actually increased his strikeouts in the second half, and his whip went up a little bit. But people were really screaming about the bullpen, and they just basically fell apart. And then we did kind of what Minnesota had done the previous year, just lost everything, and then we came and took a playoff bid from Minnesota. This year, Cleveland did exactly what we did last year, in that they just played great. We had a stretch of 6 games against them in the last 2 weeks. We lost 5 of them, or they beat us in 5. I'm not sure. Maybe we lost 1, but they were much better. We ended up going in September. I think we were, let me look at, like 7-19 or something, including 1 after the All-Star break. We went 1 win and 13 losses. And that kind of fueled the fire for Cleveland and probably Minnesota and Kansas City as well. So, and then we made the playoffs and we were like, well, we better beat Cleveland because that'll negate their division title. Not really, but that's what Detroit fans are running with. So we beat Cleveland, and then we played Seattle really well. And the last game was reminiscent of the game we played 20 years ago, game 163 with Minnesota, where the Tigers lost in extra innings and one of the best games ever. And so the Tigers are really excited, but kind of disappointed. We had a year of great baseball, if you count from August of 2024 to about the All-Star break this year. And then the last 2 months was like trying to hold water in your hand. It was a complete disaster. But we have a lot of young talent. And of course, the big question is what's going to happen to Tarek Skubal. I think they're going to play out. They're not going to trade him. And they're going to try to make the playoffs with him and then take the draft choice at the end of the season. If they can't match, I guess, the Dodgers, Yankees, or Mets, right? Is that probably is going to get him as a free agent. So it was a really good season for Detroit, but the last 2 months was like watching the Detroit Lions for the last 50 years, and you just like were a slow death. But the playoffs helped us a lot. But that's my summary of the Tigers. I said you can open the document and get more details, or you can kind of look what I was talking about for you numbers people.
You can also download the document if you want to look at
Yep.
it later.
Yep.
In the chat room.
Yep.
Thank you, Mitch.
Well done, Mitch.
Thank you.
I
My
think,
first time, I was nervous.
I think, by the way, the Tigers' record in September was the worst record of any team that qualified for the postseason play in history.
Yep.
Someone correct me if I'm wrong. I think that's correct.
No, that is correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were 7 of 17 in September. Yeah.
Yeah. Just an amazing turnaround. So, okay. So next up we have Kansas City. Roger, I'll be here, but I got to go dig up the name of the person supposed to talk for Minnesota because I still
I think it's
don't.
Bob Komorowski.
Is that Bob? Are you the
He's here.
designated Twins?
Somebody will do it. I mean,
That's me.
Yep,
Okay.
I gotta get my, yep, that's me. I'm
Okay.
having problems here, so that's why I
All right.
logged out.
Okay, well, fine, thank you. Roger, we'll do the Royals. We'll be to you in 7 or 8 minutes,
Okay.
okay? Okay, thanks. Roger?
Okay, I'm Roger Erickson, president of the Monarchs chapter in Kansas City. And for the Royals, the key statistic is this: we couldn't hit. To give an example, in the month of June, when we had our June swoon of 8 and 18, the team OPS was 348. The on base average was 225, slugging was 285. That doesn't help when you win when you try to win. 28% of all base runners were caught stealing, and the Royals only scored on 21% of the runs. Pitching, the key number for the Royals this year was 272 days. That was the days that the Royals' opening day starting rotation was injured. There was some good signs, however, for the Royals. We had 4 players make were nominated for the Silver Slugger Award: Salvador Perez and Vinny Pasquantino, who became the first Royals teammates ever to do the 3,100 club; Bobby Witt Jr., who should win it at shortstop; and Maikel Garcia, who had a resurrection year and made the All-Star team from a chance of possibly not ever making it back to the regular season roster. Homegrown talent was a good sign for the Royals this year. With all the pitchers' injuries, the Royals called up Noah Cameron from St. Joseph, Missouri, and he pitched well with an ERA of around 2.2 for the regular season. And Carter Jensen, who may be a superstar in the future, the catcher from Park Hill High School in the northern part of Kansas City, may become the heir apparent to Salvador Perez when Perez retires. What the Royals need in the offseason is still the constant problem that the Royals have always had: an outfield bat. Also, the Royals need a patient hitter. We had a as I mentioned, the base running, and I forgot what I was going to say here. But we just, if anyone wants to give us an outfielder, Minnesota, give us Byron Buxton, please. We've got pitchers.
Maybe you can lure Amos Otis out of retirement.
Amos actually still looks like he's in playing shape. That's the funny thing.
Yeah.
We might. Well, Frank White needs a job, so we might get Frank White back too. But that's an inside joke in Kansas City.
Yeah. Well, okay. You have anything else you want to say?
No, that'll be it.
Okay. All right. Good.
Okay.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Roger.
Thank you, Gary.
So Robert, or should I call you Bob?
You can go by Bob.
Okay,
Although
Bob.
people do call me Robert, though.
Okay.
So the Bob Komorowski speaking from the Halsey Hall chapter in Minneapolis, St. Paul. Minnesota Twins. I mean, what can you say? This was such a year filled with surprises. I mean, of course, coming on the trade deadline, we had the purge of a roster of 10 players, most of them relief pitchers. Not to mention the trading of Carlos Correa, They're a big free agent from a number of years ago, who was sent back to Houston. After a 0-4 start, the month of April continued to be rather dismal. But then at the beginning of May, they put together a 13-game winning streak, and things look to be rather hopeful. Ty France, the new free agent, and Harrison Bader seemed to be contributing to the team. They were signed earlier of course, they were signed over the offseason. The previous year, they finished 82-80 for fourth place. This year, they continued with a 70-92 record here. And if that wasn't enough on the at the trade deadline, it was also announced that the Pohlad family would be selling the team until they announced that they weren't. So they decided to go out instead to find two new investors, though. Now, those investors have not been announced yet by MLB. They will be announced once the sale is complete, though. But it's been speculated that Ziggy Wolf, the owner of the Vikings, is one who has extensive real estate ownings in the southern suburbs of the Twin Cities, where the Vikings have their training camp. Another person mentioned is, I believe, the Davis family from southern Minnesota that owns Cambria, which is the kitchen countertop outfit that advertises heavily in major league parks, though. So we'll see where that goes here, though. But what I find interesting, though, is that despite the loss of so many pitchers, so many people from their roster, the Twins are still ranked among the top five. The Twins farm system, I should say, is still ranked within the top five of the major league rankings. Some have had it at, I've seen second place behind the Dodgers. Other rankings, I've seen them at fifth place, though. So there is talent in the pipeline, though. The big question is how long that takes to develop, though. Of course, when it comes to attendance, the attendance was down again this year, as one might expect, after last year's collapse. Attendance, this was the lowest attendance at Target Field in the 16 years since the ballpark has been open, though. And they've been averaging about 21,000, though. So I just don't see it get any better next year at all, though. If the talent develops from the farm system that they bring up, then people may get excited about it. But I kind of compare it to the situation with the Chicago White Sox, though, where the talent they brought up in the second half of the season started to gel, and you started to see some excitement form around the team, though. Byron Buxton, as the star of the team, finally had a productive year. He's 31 years old. He'll soon be 32. He led the team in WAR. He hit 31 home runs. I believe he had 85 RBIs. They do have some starting pitching, though. Pablo Lopez, Joe Ryan, Bailey Ober, Simeon Woods Richardson, Chris Paddock, Zebby Matthews all contributed. So there's maybe some hope in the starting pitching come next year. But many of the relief pitchers that were let go or traded, though, they like a lot of teams, though, these guys are on one-year contracts. They become expendable. It's a constant merry-go-round with relief pitchers, though. One of the problems was lack of hitting. The Twins finished 17th in MLB and team OPS with the 708. And that was actually second to Detroit 723, which was 12th in the major leagues. So you can see Kansas City was 19th, the White Sox 28th, Cleveland 29th, and that was just in front of Pittsburgh. So this was not a heavy hitting division at all though. Naturally, then that leads to the firing of Rocco Baldelli by Derek Falvey, and I would suspect that they're going to look at a new direction here with a lot of young talent coming up here, though. So we may see, even though Baldelli was considered a player's manager, we may see somebody who can relate possibly to some of the youngsters that they may have known coming up through the minor league system, though. There really hasn't been any names bandied about as far as who might be coming into the job here, though. But it's one of these things we just may have to wait and see until before the winter meetings here. As far as the future, again, Buxton is under a 7-year, $100 million contract that runs through the 2028 season, though, and he'll make $15 million next year in 2026. So if he gets traded, you're going to see an outright revolt by the fan base here, but things don't look very promising for next year, though, as far as a win-loss percentage, though, and that's about it.
Okay, Bob, thanks very much. I had a question, which is, do you think the Twins are going to continue to, I don't want to say do things on the cheap, but continue to be conservative until the new CBA comes out and hopefully there's a different alignment of video rights, TV rights, and centralization that will bring more money to clubs like the Twins?
Yes, I would think so, and I think that's where the new investors may be playing a role, though. There's also been some speculation that they perhaps may be a bit more media savvy in terms of contacts with potential partners on the TV and streaming side, though. But as I'm sure some of you are aware, though, they did get out of their FanDuel agreement, though. That was previously, of course, Bally Sports. And for the first time in many a year, we actually had Twins games broadcast over a local Twin City station here, the independent Fox station, though, took it upon, came to an agreement with them for about a dozen games or so here. So I would anticipate, and that's something I believe that the Diamondbacks and the Padres went to that model too. So I would anticipate that being continued into next year, probably. But yes, they're in a holding pattern, though, to see where this new agreement goes and with the future of broadcast rights and TV and streaming and cable, though, because so much of that's up in the air and it's been disrupted, so much by the demise of cable and the increased cord cutting that we've seen.
Okay, thank you. Next, last but not least, the White Sox, who did not have the worst record in baseball this year. That honor belonged to the Rockies.
Progress.
Yeah, it was
yeah.
progress.
I'll make mine quickly. Let's see. For me, I work downtown, and I've worked downtown for a long time. I've passed by a lot of skyscrapers being built, and I've watched the process. And I've seen when things have been raised to the ground and there's a hole in the ground for years, 2, 3, 4 years, where it looks like nothing's happening. But in fact, stuff is happening. The wiring is being built in, the plumbing's being built in, and there's a lot of stuff that's taking place. And then what you'll see is like one spring, they will start constructing the floors. And by the end of the summer, the structure is up, be it 20, 30, 40 floors. And I've seen this happen a lot. And so, the point there is just because you're not physically seeing anything doesn't mean there isn't stuff going on. And I think the White Sox are making progress, but I don't know how visible it is. I think the Rays down point was actually before Chris Getz came in. The last year of Kenny Williams and Rick Hahn, it may have been due to spite, but they raised the whole thing in the summer of 2023, where they just cleared house, made a lot of trades, and just started the process of going down the bottom. And I think we saw bottom last year, or what I assume will be bottom. I think it'd be, I think that Red Sox reached a level last year where it's really hard to get to, even intentionally. So I don't think we'll see that again. But they did try to this past year. It even looked for a period like they would avoid 100 losses, and then it was only like they had one final swoon about 2 weeks before the end of the season that finished off that chance. But they did get to 60 victories, and I think with a very small goal next year is they won't lose 100 games, and I think even a more manageable goal is maybe they won't even lose 90 games. Maybe it'll be like 74 and 88 or something like that. I think that is doable. So we'll see. Last year, as Bob mentioned, they started bringing in a lot of their young talent from their farm system. And so last year was a year, especially in the second half of the season, where the White Sox were they featured, by my count, one, two, I got 9 players on the team had significant amount of time. And I'm saying both pitchers and position players who were rookies. In additionally, another 6 players were like, this was only their second full season of play. And, almost all of them were 25 or under. And I'm throwing Jordan Leisure in there, who's 26. But otherwise, this very young team. And they actually started making progress when they had these young players were doing in. These guys were all doing better than the deadwood they had in there last year and for pretty much the first 2 months of this year. And so, like I said, the building is slow, but they have patched some things. Like right now, their catching's really in pretty good shape. They got 2 young catchers in Edgar Caro and Kyle Teal who are very good, and by all statistics, were one of the better catching combos in the American League. They built up their infield with a bunch of young players who are contributing. Chase Mydruff, Miguel Vargas, Lenine Sosa, Colson Montgomery, who was kind of a breakout star towards the second half of the season. And so there's still work to be done, but they're starting to get some stuff built there, and they have some young pitching. Shane Smith was an all-star. Mike Vassell really was good, a do-it-all player who got some starts in, got some relief pitches, some long relief pitching, and the prospect of younger pitchers who are coming up and had their first exposure, like Grant Taylor, who's shown flashes of being really good, in addition to flashes of really being terrible. So, but that's development. I think the real thing is, unlike the last few years, it's not going to be a completely new lineup in 2026. I mean, the last 2 years we've kind of watched with this massive turnover of the roster. And this time it's not, I don't think it's going to happen as much. I think anybody who saw the Sox play in August or September and saw what players they were throwing out there, yeah, for the most part, that's pretty much, at least on the position player wise, that's the players you're going to be seeing. And, they've got some prospects, they'll get some additional pitching help next year, but I'm not anticipating, much like the Twins, to address Gary's question, I'm not anticipating any big amount of spending or that, or at least not yet. I mean, I'm not anticipating my big metaphor of skyscraper building, that's not going to be happening in the next year or two, but I do think you might see something like that occur around 2028 or 2027 maybe, where all of a sudden you just start seeing it really taking off. But once again, I would hope that they've got enough there that they can do better next year, and ideally, yeah, maybe they get up to 75 wins. And uh unlike the last 2 years, if one of your teams is slacking, I won't be the last person speaking on this call next fall. And
Rich,
I don't know which one of those teams that is, but I think that's at least possible. I don't think that was even a remote possibility the last 2 years. This year, they might get out of last. We'll see. But
yeah,
that's what I got.
thanks, Rich. I found the Sox pretty interesting when they came to Detroit late in the season.
Yeah.
Or it was a very watchable club, which a year ago I couldn't even stand to look at them. I would listen to the radio because I couldn't stand to watch the video of the White Sox.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I
so
mean, for those that like stats, the biggest, I more than anything, the biggest thing was a year ago, their runs scored was like 3.11, 3.12, and this year it was 3.99, and they missed an even four by 1 run. If they had scored one more run in their final game, they would have actually finished exactly at 4 runs a game on the season, which is, that's tremendous increase. That's over a 40% increase in runs scored. And as a result, they did not have the worst offense in the American League, or specifically in the AL Central, because that title went to the division winner, Cleveland Guardians.
uh,
I said Guardians. I don't own a quarter.
Very
Don't own a
good.
quarter.
Rich, do you want to update us on the new ballpark situation?
I don't think there are any, but I think that kind of they kept talking about using this place called, was it the 37 or something, but the soccer team, the Chicago Fire, the owner announced he would build a stadium there, and he wouldn't involve any public funds. So the city approved that. So they have the first rights on building wherever they want to go. And I think, although that parcel is big enough that you could put a soccer stadium in there and a baseball park, I don't think the White Sox are interested if they're not the main tenant in there, if they don't have the choice piece. And they wanted public money. I mean, it kind of like that screwed them up, and the Bears are still looking for public money. So it's I don't know, it's on hold. I think really the big issue was the fact that Reinsdorf, uh, like what was announced is that with the guy who was big people thought was going to buy the Twins, Jason Ishbia, is now been buying up minority shares of the White Sox, and has been promised the first right to buy the team if like there's a window. There's it. Yeah, Reinsdorf is old enough that he just may want to get out by 2030, in which case he could put it up and the Ishbias would have the right. But apparently there's like a deadline where that will last no longer than 2033 or 2034, and then the Ishbias can just request that, okay, we become owners. So they are guaranteed to be the owners by 2033 or 2034, something like that. And maybe that's it. Maybe it takes until they're finally there that the stadium stuff gets deal. Except that the contract, the lease the White Sox have with the current place through the Illinois Sports Authority expires in 2029. And so a decision has to be made. Although I don't see why the decision couldn't just be that they sign an extension for a few years until they settle it. They buy themselves some time. Because, I mean, the current place is fine. It's not like it's, oh my God, you didn't sign this extension. It's just going to collapse on you. There's no impending reason for it to, there's nothing pushing it out like, oh, we've already committed that land for some other purpose. They could stay there, you know, for the foreseeable future. But I think the plan is to leave, but I think it may take longer before we actually see that happen.
Yeah. Okay, thanks. All right, so that concludes our roundup. Uh, when I signed on, we were in the middle of a discussion of, excuse me, it's been unseasonably warm here, so I have the windows open, and we have some people demonstrating that they have small penises by revving their engines and racing down Jefferson Avenue. Um, so we were in the middle of a discussion about the World Series, I think. Stu, do you want to resume that? Resume that?
Yeah, when he mentioned small penises, I thought it was going to be something other kind of rally or protest. I don't know, just in general, it's a 12-team tournament for entertainment purposes. Joe Sheen refers to it as a tournament, not the playoffs. Um, you don't have to know too much probability to know that any team getting in there has got even a less than 50% chance of making it to the World Series, let alone winning the World Series. And just accept it for what it is. I kind of wish it were different, but I hate to go into old fogey mode, and I'm definitely not going back to the people who want to call the Detroit Tigers of 1968 the last true champion, because that was before we started splitting into playoffs. If one wants to do that, then I would ask why it's not the Brooklyn Superbas of 2000. So, you know what, though? I don't know, October starts. We got a couple days in a row with 4 games. I can flip on the TV in the morning and watch till the evening, and it keeps going to where we have games almost all the time. We're finally at the point we don't have a game. I'm just going to enjoy baseball as it is, and know it's a crapshoot when you get in there. Yankees had the tied for the second best record in the majors this year, and once again got tripped up all the years Oakland with the Moneyball was putting together good regular season teams, but getting tripped up in the playoffs. And that's not an indictment on the Moneyball approach, or that people aren't clutch and they just don't have all the clean living to get them through it, and every other cliche that these good hair people on TV, which I don't listen to because I'll watch it with the sound off. um, they always do whatever the outcome is, they fit the narrative to the outcome. So just, hey, enjoy baseball in
Well,
October because there's lots of it, and don't put too much meaning on what it means to win the tournament.
that's what I said at this meeting at the beginning of the year. I said, the Guardians are a team that's built to finish around 500, and if they catch a few breaks, they'll end up into the tournament, and anything can happen. And I feel like there are a lot of teams who may not specifically be banking on that, but they are built with that in mind because they understand that, like you said, the postseason can be such a crapshoot. It's not necessarily who's the best, it's who's the hottest.
Right. Yeah. Well, the thing is, of course, that the teams that sneak in love that fact, like the Tigers last year. They love the fact that in a short series, uh, anybody can win. But then when they have the best record in the league and they get beaten by a team that had 10 or 15 games wins fewer, they don't like it so much. Stu,
Meanwhile, I
when you
went to every Twins game, a home game, and some on the road. They suck this year. I can understand people are down in it. It was a blow when they found out the poll ads weren't selling, although it's Dan Levitt, smarter than I'd say any of us here. It's pointed out, he was quoted in the newspaper saying there's a lot of owners that could be worse than the poll ads. But one thing that was fun to watch for all Twins fans was Byron Buxton having a pretty much full season. One short stint on the injured list that also didn't affect him when he came back, and we got to finally see after all these years uh, what kind of how much fun it would be watching Buxton with a non-injury year and just being a great player. And my feeling is Joe Sheehan, I guess I'll quote him a lot. I get his newsletter. I think he's really smart. For all the relievers that they gave up, which they can just rebuild a bullpen, um, they got starting pitchers and players for the lineup, and I think that's a good swap. It wouldn't surprise me. I wouldn't bet on. I don't even use that term bet because I want to stay away from it. But I wouldn't predict them to win the division or make the playoffs next year. But it wouldn't shock me if they did.
One thing I'm not clear on, Stu, or Bob, since the Pohlads got minority partners in to essentially refinance, does that mean the Pohlads are here to stay, or just until they can get the price they want for the team?
I think they like having it. The team. I mean, it's a toy, and they don't treat it as much as a toy as a gazillionaire who, will put money in without an expected return on investment that one would expect from some corporate business. I think they like being in it, but they had, they have a lot of money on paper when you own a baseball franchise with 400 million in debt, and they wanted to get rid of that. We don't even know who they are yet, and maybe they'll get some people who want to, just put all the money in with a better chance of standing there at the end of the season and holding the World Series trophy.
Another thing too is the old man paid, what was it, 44 million for him when the Griffith family sold it, and it's worth and the Pohlad brothers wanted, what was it, 1.4 billion. So that's pretty good return on investment for holding it for that long, and and that price is only going to go up, in the future. And the other thing to consider is that they own a lot of property now around Target Field. They have quietly gone into the real estate business big time in the North Loop area, where Target Field is located, though. So they have considerable interest in holding on to the team for a while, I would think. I don't know if Stu agrees with that.
Do you Minnesota guys feel Rocco Baldelli got a fair shake, or he was the guy that took the hit for
He got the same shake every other manager out there gets, right?
Well, some get fairer than others.
I mean, it wasn't at all surprising, and we're all too used to seeing that's how it goes.
Yeah, it's hired to be fired. But I mean, managers get too much credit when their team wins generally, and too little credit or too much blame when they lose. But that's part of the price of the game. Although I will say the Tigers signed AJ Hinch during the season to another extension. Nobody has leaked how much money he's making or how long the extension is, but I'm getting the feeling he's going to be manager for life here. That he's going to retire whenever he feels like retiring, and he will be the manager in Detroit because he really is incredibly well respected. And so far as I can tell, except for some talk show hosts, sports talk show hosts who are trying to gin up some controversy on air, everyone likes him and respects him. I certainly do. I think he's one of the best managers in the last 20 years.
I think we're going to see more of what the Giants did. A lot more coming out of college, people we haven't heard of. We can think of Bobby Winkles from 50 years ago. I think we're going to see more of what the Giants are doing.
Right.
Say, I got a question for Richard. Speaking about managers, now, even though I live in Minnesota, I'm still a White Sox fan out here. Since I was a kid, but I didn't know anything about Will Venables though when he came to the Sox at the tail end of, what was it, 2024, I believe. Though the only thing I knew is that he was with the Rangers. What's your take on him though? He seems to relate very well to these these kids like Colson Montgomery, Roy Pio, so.
Yeah, I think he's still learning, but one thing I like about him is that he wasn't, this was his first year managing, and he wasn't the same manager at the end of the year that he was at the first start of the year. So he's not, I like people who aren't locked into. I mean, I think he was learning, he's trying stuff out, but then he's not going to become so, and I think he got better with managing his bullpen as he started realizing what his players could and couldn't do. So maybe, like every other fan, maybe I thought the experimental phase with managing the starters in the bullpen was too long. But by the end, I thought he had a pretty good handle on what his pitchers could and couldn't do. and we're always like missing. It's easy to be critical on oh, you shouldn't have put that guy in there. With hindsight, it's always like, oh, that guy threw the homer, you shouldn't have thrown him in there. But we as fans, we don't know who's healthy, who's not, who looked good in the bullpen, who they think can pitch, who can't. And so I'm willing to give him a break there. But I I think on a lot of fronts, you're right. He does relate to the young players, which is important because that's what they're bringing in, and he's not been afraid to use them, and I think that's important. Not overkill it either, but sort of like acknowledge, okay, this is what we need, and then if he tries somebody out and they're not producing, he gets them out of the lineup. There's no sacred cows, and so that's pretty much one of the ways that Andrew Vaughn ended up on the Brewers. Because arguably you would think, oh, he's locked in, you can't do anything with him, and he just, I mean, he looked good with the Brewers, but my God, he wasn't doing any of that with the White Sox. And whoever's fault that is, I don't know. He was a genuinely bad player this year with the White Sox, and so finally, Venable just like, I'm not going to play him. I can't play him, and it's that I think that gives credibility in the clubhouse too, because
Yeah, I
yeah,
like the way he managed the bullpen, and I also like the fact that he let these guys run. I mean,
yeah,
guys like Detroit and Montgomery on the base paths, those guys are fun to watch. Run the
yeah.
bases.
Yeah. Well, the other thing I like, I specifically, I've been, because Montgomery was a number one draft choice. I always follow the White Sox draft choices. So I've been paying attention to Montgomery for a long time. And one of the things before I had even seen him play, from everything I had written, read, and studied, I had become convinced that, like, oh, so he's not really a shortstop. And then he comes up and, like, his metrics show he is a shortstop. He positions well. He's got soft hands. He's got a good arm. Okay, maybe his range isn't like specific range isn't as good as some others, but that's made up by, a good first step, very strong throwing arm, good throws. And I've been at games and I've seen twice a situation where there's a line single to left field, or it should have been a line single to left field. But because of Montgomery's weakness, which is the height and the long arms, the reason he can't play shortstop, he was able to reach up and pull that thing down. And I guarantee you, there's nobody else in baseball playing that position that could have made those two catches. And I'm talking the type of freaky play that is basically what got the shift banned. The shift wasn't banned because three infielders were over the right side. The shift was banned because a line shot to right field that landed 50 feet in the outfield was a bounce out to a position player sitting there who threw the guy out at first base. That freaked people out. And Montgomery was making catches like that just kind of like, it's not natural. Every ball hit like that is a single, except these plays he was making. So I like, and they've let him play there. And even then I was hearing people, oh, why not just play it? He's going to be at third base. Why not play him at third base? Well, because he's better at shortstop. That's why. He's genuinely good at it. So anyway.
Thank you.
So I was going to take a poll here. Anyone want to offer opinions of who's going to win the World Series, especially now that it's 1-1?
I'll
Sure.
go Dodgers.
How many people put up your hand on the think it's going to be the Dodgers? 1, 2, 3, 5. Yeah, I put mine up. That's only 6, although we have a bunch of people not voting. Oh, it stands 7. How many people think the Twins? Or the Blue Jays? The Twins.
Was that a trick question, Gary, to see who's still with us?
All right, so we got 1, 2, 3, Ah, so not much faith in the Blue Jays.
Okay. Gary,
I
can I
think it's
take
going
the
to be the
Twins?
Blue Jays. I just don't know how to raise my hand in this.
Oh, I see.
Just
Okay.
raise your hand physically.
Oh, I can do
Yeah,
that.
that's what most people are doing.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Um, oh, well, it's so now I get a few extra, I get a few late hands, so it's more even than I thought. Um, okay, so um, do we have any other comments on the postseason? Anyone, no one's going to comment on Otani's great game, which instantly became the greatest performance in baseball history, according to the media.
I mean,
We'll never
you know,
see it
three
again.
home runs and that pitching performance kind of makes it unique, if not great.
Yeah, I didn't try to look into the Negro League stuff. Um, it's always bugged me the last few years about people saying Otani is the first person to do this. And the Negro League, we had several people who were true two-way players. That's a long time ago, but not all of them. I mean, people, there are some people who should know better who would say, for example, that all the great Negro League pitchers were two-way players, which is not true, but several of them were true two-way players. Um, and Otani certainly has had the advantage of not having to pitch in a rotation every fifth day. And when he's injured or has surgery, he takes a year off as a pitcher. So it's like, and of course, he has the advantage of being a DH,
Yeah.
which is something that people didn't used to have. I'm not dissing him at all. He's an amazing player. I was in spring training in 18 when he first came over. I was in Tempe watching him strike out on sliders 6 inches off the plate and looking
Yeah.
completely clueless. And I said to one of the guys covering the Angels, I said, "What what is the thing here with him?" Like, um, and they said they just thought, that it was maybe a bad signing. And of course, uh, didn't prove to be that way. But
Well, it was a
um,
bit. They didn't sign him for enough years, so yeah, it was a bad signing.
Yeah, that's
oh yeah,
true.
it's true, it was
That's
a
right.
bad
Good,
signing.
good point, Richard.
Well, the Angels got to be the club that has the most resources and the um, least results for
Yeah,
deploying all those resources.
yeah,
See, this is the team that just signed a manager to a 1-year contract, right?
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
I'm surprised Suzuki took that,
Uh,
but I guess
yeah.
yeah. I don't want to go all Ernie Banks on everybody, but I mean it is pretty sad that Mike Trout has been and may be condemned to
Well,
finish his
he
career.
did get one playoff series.
Right. Yeah,
He
but that's
did
not
at
the
least make it into one playoff series.
yeah, that's true. But the playoffs are not the same as going to the World Series like it was
Right.
Yeah,
for divisions, right?
yeah.
Brenda's got her hand up either because she has a
Oh yeah.
question or she's still voting for the Blue Jays.
No, no. She had her hand up and I forgot to call on her. Brenda, go ahead. Oh no.
Unmute,
Oh,
honey.
no, I am still, okay, I'm still voting for the Blue Jays.
Oh, you
Have to
are
lower it.
He's very, yeah,
very
very
loyal.
convinced.
Yes, yes, I am. Yeah, no, I mean, I remember when they beat the Twins out of going to the World Series. So I do remember that very well. But I just kind of want the Canadians to have their time.
Well, but Brenda, you gotta admit that if the Blue Jays win, how could they not think about all the former Cleveland players on the roster playing big roles?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's kind of salt in the wounds for Cleveland.
I'm sorry, Barrios won't be there, but Louis Varland is a purely local guy, and um, I don't know, he got knocked around a little bit last night, didn't he? But everybody's happy to see Louis or Lewis
Yeah.
being able to pitch in the World Series this year.
Yeah. Well, when Stu was talking before, I was thinking about that. Like from my perspective, I think I'm with Stu. I just enjoy watching it. And I think, even if it is a tournament, it's not the championship. I think it's a difficult tournament to win or to reach the finals. So I always find, I always look at the positive, and when you finally do get two teams there, you know, I've always found that, you know, they're really good teams. There's not a fluke there. There's like these teams have shown they know how to win games. And it's the same thing this year, that you're looking at two really good teams. I'm really impressed with them. So it makes it fun.
They deserve to be there.
Yeah,
Yeah, they
Yep.
do.
So would Seattle if it had made it, and I
Yep.
absolutely.
I was
Yep.
pulling for both Seattle and Toronto
Yep.
once it got to that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I just
I
wanted to
was
see.
gonna, because a friend, when I was watching the game, I was on the phone with a friend who berated me because I said, he was asking me, should they walk Springer? And I'm like, no, you don't put the lead run out. You don't do it. You don't do it. And then Springer hits the homer, and he was just berating me. And to me, I'm like, I don't think the strategy of pitching to him was bad. I
No.
thought they brought in the wrong pitcher. That's what happened. That was the bad part. You don't put in your third best reliever at that situation. That's when you need, that's when you go mano a mano, the best that you have. That that's me.
Speaking of relief pitchers, I should ask Vince or Joe, are there any updates on what's going on with Class A?
Well, they were, I think they said at the end of August that they were going to continue on administrative leave. Excuse me, through the end of the season, and obviously that has happened. The news that just came out a couple of days ago is that neither of them have been permitted to play winter ball.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So, but beyond that, no, and that really is one of the big questions in Cleveland. I mean,
Yeah.
this is obviously to some extent a cautionary tale for everybody else, but there has been no resolution. There's been nothing that even leads us to believe that there's going to be any kind of resolution anytime soon.
Yeah.
I think it's going to come right after the World Series on a Friday afternoon.
At 4:30.
Yeah, 4:30,
Yeah, except-
exactly.
And what do you think will happen?
Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Both of them?
Yep.
Yeah.
That's my opinion.
Yeah.
I think they've known for a long time what the answer is, but they
Yeah.
don't need the bad press, and especially now after the
the
NBA
NBA thing.
situation,
Yeah.
maybe 5 o'clock on Friday afternoon.
And the other thing is, I think when Manfred, announced that, okay, Rose is eligible because we're not going to carry a ban after death. I almost think because that looks like you're condoning gambling, I think the trade-off there is if you actually do it, they're going to be harsher on you. There's less margin of error. If you're caught at this, they're not going to screw around. I think that's the trade-off. Like, he'll be permitted back in once he dies, but
I
I'll
see
tell you
that.
what was disappointing. I'll tell you what was disappointing to see in today's New York Times, or I should say, The Athletic, though, was Rob Manfred essentially saying that, well, we have no choice but to get in
Right.
bed
We need to work with
FanDuel
them.
and the gambling because they have such great data to provide. It
Yeah,
was
yeah,
almost
it
as
was.
though they put a gun to our head,
Yeah.
though.
Yeah.
I mean, my God.
Yeah.
Well,
I
you know
mean,
what? I
well-
mean, to be fair, the whole reason that Ortiz and Clase were suspended was because the books found unnatural gambling activity. And with Ortiz, it was
Yeah.
very, very obvious that he completely airmailed a couple of pitches to start off an inning.
yeah.
There were prop bets that were being placed on those pitches. So there was definitely something that smelled a little fishy in that respect.
Yeah.
And it started with the sports books.
Well, I think that something that was over the weekend momentarily funny and a little bit political was that the comment was that the real reason President Trump moved the aircraft carrier Gerald R. Ford near Venezuela was to prevent them from playing in the Venezuelan Winter League, not to fight the drug threat.
On a more serious note, I see that Tony Clark has said that he's against prop bets, which I think would be a great thing.
Yeah.
yeah, right.
Because you look at, like, nobody's right now is going to bet on basic throwing a game or something like that, because especially like in baseball, I hell, even, as great as Otani is, even he can't guarantee that, think about it. He's one player, he had 3 homers, but they were solos. and he pitched 6 innings, but he didn't pitch 9. So they only lost by 4 runs. As great a game he had, the Brewers still could have won that game. Like, so there's, you've got maybe one of the greatest performance, if not the greatest performance in a postseason game ever, and you still can't guarantee one way or another that your team's going to win or lose. So the notion reversely that I can play so bad that I can guarantee my team's going to live, you can't do that, and it becomes too obvious. So the prop bets are the only way that you think you can get away with something where people are like, hey,
You have
you
control.
don't have to give up the whole game. All you have to do is make sure, NBA, make sure you are not the first person to score a basket. That's all. Just make sure that, because then you can get at 1 or 2 players and they ensure that the first player on their team scoring a basket is the ones that the gamblers are paying on. And it doesn't even look like you won't even get caught at it. That's the type of stuff that's dangerous.
Well, and
Yeah,
that's what the allegations were that came out from the FBI investigation, is they were talking about, how they were essentially using inside information to bet on, on injury reports to bet on games, and how, they said that Terry Rozier essentially was saying, oh yeah, bet the under on my points scored tonight, and then in the second quarter he comes down with some kind of injury that he doesn't play for the rest of the game.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, allegedly, Vince, allegedly, he told whoever, I'm going to take myself out of the game a
Yes.
few minutes in to guarantee that, what you just said. Again, allegedly, this is all allegedly, right?
Yeah, when betting first came in some years ago, my son was asking me about it, and I said, well, I've never placed a bet larger than dinner or a beer
Yeah.
on a baseball game in my life. But I said I've given up on the idea that you could restrict betting on who's going to win the pennant or who's going to win the game. But I said the real evil will be prop bets.
Mm-hmm.
When you have prop bets that you can use your smartphone and have and in the ballpark.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that situation would be controllable if you eliminated prop bets, and especially if you eliminated betting during the game, and especially from the ballpark itself.
Mm-hmm.
I think the corruption would be probably controllable. Um, but prop bets and parlays are where they're making their money. They make so much more money than off a straight bet, old-fashioned bets, and
Mm-hmm.
that's where you're going to have the real risk for corruption. So,
You can just see the lobbyists lining up right now, in state legislative commissioners on Capitol Hill.
Well, actually, after the news broke about the Guardians pitchers, the governor of Ohio actually said maybe we should ban prop bets in the state. And I believe prop bets in Ohio are actually illegal in college games for similar reasons.
I didn't know that.
You're starting to see some really bad stuff happen, though. I mean, vis-a-vis fans and college Division 1 players right now, though, too,
Yeah,
where
a lot more
their
bad
lives,
stuff on the way, too.
yeah, their
Absolutely.
lives are being threatened.
Yeah.
Right. There's so much more opportunity for people who are ruthless to corrupt or threaten or turn around college athletes. And there's so many more opportunities because there's so many more teams and games, and you can't, the league, there is no league. I mean, I suppose you call the Big Ten a league. Sometimes people do, but the control over the teams and the players is so much less than in major league sports. Yeah, I think it's going to be very bad, very bad.
And it's
So,
Hey, can I
it's coming
throw
sooner than later, Gary.
oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. If I wake up tomorrow and there is a big expose in the Athletic or in the Washington Post about some college player throwing the game or whatever, it wouldn't surprise me in the slightest. And the amount of money that's flowing into college football now is just stupefying, absolutely stupefying.
Yep.
I mean, there always was a lot of money and a lot of interest. It's a huge amount of money and interest, but the amount that it's growing and the amount of money that the networks are willing to pay for expanding the college football playoffs, it's mind-boggling.
Yep.
It's mind-boggling. So
Say, can I throw something out here?
sure.
The winter meetings are going to be coming up here before we know it here soon, and I'm just curious if anybody has any thoughts on what we might see, free agent signings here, MOB policy, what have you.
Well,
Well,
I think everybody anticipates the the umpiring system, the electronic umpiring system. They're probably going to institute that next
Well,
year.
they've already said that.
yeah, that's
Okay,
already
they
Yeah,
have already.
that's a guarantee.
the
That's
challenge
guaranteed.
system, the ABS challenge
Yeah.
system is approved.
The robots are already practicing.
Yeah.
Yeah, the robots have been sent to a deserted island so they don't
Right.
they
Yeah.
don't get approached by gamblers.
Oh, good. Okay.
Some of us could be, and the reason I avoid even saying I'd bet my right nut, or as I've often said, or my middle one, I just try to stay away from that word, but I may be involved in that, at least with one of the jobs that I do, is because they're gonna have to measure the height of the strike zone based on this, and so I don't even wanna
Yeah.
be, but if they, I understand why they're doing the challenge system. Joe Sheehan, to quote him once again, said it was to win the press conference. They thought that they could get the players to buy into it. Okay, that's a reason, I guess. And the fans so far like it. I've seen it at the Saints
Yeah.
games.
It's
It's
wonderful.
fan engagement, but as Joe Sheehan says, quoting him again, they could, if they trust this system enough, and you can debate that. It's two-dimensional, whether they should. If they trust it enough to use it on a challenge, then there's no practical reason that they shouldn't use it for every pitch, not turn it into a game of a player tapping his helmet. And yeah, it's a quick thing. It's a lot quicker than watching an NFL game where they'll take 3 minutes to decide if it was a catch or not. But it could be even more seamless by just, and we had that with the minor league ball with the Saints for a while. They were doing full ABS. You didn't even notice if you didn't
Yeah.
know they were
But-
doing it. And then they went to full ABS for 3 days and challenge, and the fans liked the challenge. Oh, it's so fun. Just, I hope maybe after 1 year of this, they'll just say, if we can get it right, let's get it right on every single
And-
call. And there's the in the moment thing too. I mean, I still say this, what if Don Larson would have been tapping his helmet and Yogi would have to hold up before running out into Larson's arms? If you can get that call right immediately, then just do it. There's no reason other than winning the press conference to go to a challenge system.
Yeah, well, I'm confident that
Yeah.
the challenge system will be
Yeah, but-
popular.
But you
Uh,
look at it this way, though, Stu, here, that was 1957. Dale Mitchell was the one, former Cleveland Indian, that took that disputed third strike. His family still disagrees with that call.
Well, we'll never
It's still
know.
alive
And
and
for
well,
those who,
man.
we'll never know.
It
But
looked
let's
like he
just,
swung anyway.
okay, we just had a debate on SABR, but my point is, let's just say that it would have
Yeah.
ended up being a called strike, whether he swung or not.
Yeah. It's
Yeah, is that what you really want? Hang
It's-
on, Yogi. Oh,
Yeah,
there it is, a strike. Now go ahead.
Stu,
no,
I mean, like, Yogi. Okay, so Yogi would just jump into the robot's arms
Right,
instead.
right.
No,
You
no,
still have the
that's-
dramatics.
That's just, no, it's the in the moment thing, and that's the other
Yeah.
thing. They can't make the replay on the bases seamless. I mean, you've got to go to it, but yay, our guy is safe, 2 out, the run scored. Oh, but we can't cheer all the way yet because maybe it's gonna overturned. If they ever had robots on the bases that could make every call correct immediately, that's the way to go. You just and meanwhile,
here's-
How can
still
you
enjoy
insult a
watching
robot?
sports
Yeah.
where don't ask me. I mean, it might be Rosie from the Jetsons. I don't know.
Well, I mean,
You've got it in tennis for line calls.
yeah.
And
Well,
it's
quick.
instantaneous, it's seamless.
it's quick.
You don't have the players having to tap their heads as a human says that ball was out, and No, I'm gonna tap my head because I think it was in. If you can do it seamlessly, where the opportunities are there to do it as such, I get it why they're doing it. It's more getting the buy-in from the players and some of the fans. So you spin a shiny object in front of them and they ooh and ah. But I'm hoping they'll get through that and just if it works and it's accurate, just go to it all the way starting the following season.
Stu,
Well,
if I could jump in, I've been remarkably quiet all night, and I'll have some observation as a National League Central fan, watching the Reds actually get in, even if they got pounded by the Dodgers, made the end of the season for a recently long-suffering Reds fan a little bit more exciting. And so I agree, being able to watch a lot of games in the so-called tournament. But Stu, my observation would be, even if you want to talk about whether the system is perfect or not, it would at least be consistent. And wouldn't batters adjust to a more consistent strike zone once they figure out this is what's going to be a strike and this is what's going to be a ball?
Yeah, maybe, but my point is, why do the head tapping? If that thing is an inch outside, and go through an umpire calling it a strike and the batter tapping his helmet and finding out it's not. If it were, a quarter of an inch outside, why not just have it called as a ball to begin with? Yeah, they'll adjust, and some people have got concerns it's gonna change the shape of the strike zone. Remember when umpires were rebelling against calling the strike as it's as it's listed in the rule book? Some people are saying this is going to lead to longer games because in a blowout game, umpires are expected to expand the strike zone. Not by me, they're not. Call the same damn thing all the time. But no, my whole thing is, um, if you've got the ability to get a call correct, then get it correct all the time and not go to the challenge system. That's what I don't like and hope will not last.
well, I think that the system ultimately will go to a full automated system because then we can save a lot of money if you don't have umpires calling balls and strikes, right? You still have to have a home plate umpire for other things, but you
Yeah, I don't know if it will save money, and I don't think the umpires union had a say in it, at least Mike Everett, an umpire supervisor, because that was one of the things I got to get the umpires to buy. And maybe they would get in there. Official scores are getting nervous about AI replacing us too, which I also don't see, or at least the good news is by the time that happens, I'll probably be dead. But yeah, I don't know what it'll do on salaries, if it will say we don't, what the most skilled job is calling the balls and strikes.
right,
Yeah.
right.
And if it's like we can now start paying them less, I'm not sure that if that'll happen or not.
Well, anyway, the uh, according to Jane Levy, who wrote a piece for the Times yesterday about, you should savor this World Series because it's the last, basically the last one before the robots take over. And
Oh, come on. Jesus.
you can read her piece. I'm making fun of
Yeah,
her.
I've heard her on Zoom call. I like Jane Levy, but
Um,
her opinions are no more anything to me than anybody else's.
right. But yeah, I was just making fun of her. But what what I'm saying is that, or what she said is the players are against the ABS system for all balls and strikes, which I think is weird. But I think if you had an ABS system, if you have an ABS system and it works well for the challenge system, it's inevitable in a few years. I don't think it'd be 1 year, but it's inevitable in 2 or 3 or 4 years that they're going to bring it in for everything. And then there'll be a transition period where the players who came up with human umpires calling balls and strikes won't like it for a while. And then they'll retire or they'll be playing
Yeah.
in Japan or playing in the Frontier League. Another joke, of course, playing in the American Association, and the younger players will just be the way it is.
Yeah.
Same thing with the pitch clock.
And
Yeah,
this is what
this
you're
is the
starting
last
to
World
see.
Series to enjoy is shit. It's same people. I don't like the start of inning runner, which I don't use in the postseason, but I'm not going to get on this. It's ruined the game. I've heard that, certainly ever since the designated hitter. If you don't care about watching the postseason or don't care about baseball, that something like a start of inning runner is going to ruin it for you, I'd say you're not much of a fan to begin with.
Right. Well, having watched Eric Gregg in Philadelphia for a long time
Yeah, okay, we know that.
Yeah.
and watched the 87, not the 87, the 97,
97.
97 game against the Braves, which lives in infamy in Philadelphia. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and people in Philadelphia, they were widely rumored. I never saw evidence, or no one ever told me there was evidence. They're widely rumored that the Phillies believed that Greg was on the take, even though Greg was very popular in Philadelphia personally. Everyone loved him. Um,
Yeah.
I can
I'd want
see.
I'd want something more
I can.
definitive to even
Yes.
make that kind of a claim.
Yeah.
I'm not making the claim. I'm just telling you what people said.
I know, I
Um,
know.
the I'm fine with robot umpires if they do it right, and if they can handle the challenge, why not handle every pitch? The thing that I'm curious
Absolutely.
about is what difference will it make to the hitters and the pitchers, excuse
They're
me,
gonna have to adjust to whether you use a
to a
challenge system or
two-dimensional
not.
strike zone. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
maybe
they're gonna have to adjust no matter what.
Yeah.
maybe it means pitches like sweepers will fall out of favor and 12 to 6 curveballs and downer sliders will be more popular because they're at less risk for clipping the old strike zone but being outside the two-dimensional strike
Yeah.
zone.
Well,
But
can they ever get to a point where the robots can do the 3 dimensions
I
in
would think
terms of,
so. I would think so.
I don't think so, and I don't think it will
yeah.
matter once they go to a two-dimensional strike zone. No one will care. I mean, if you look at baseball history, the rule book and the strike zone, if you take the de facto strike zone, not the rule book strike zone, it's changed dramatically multiple times.
Oh, yeah.
And so this would just be another change on the strike zone.
Yeah.
It will probably seem unusual for a while, and to the older players, it might seem really difficult or really problematic. But then again, they will pass from the scene, and the younger player will just be the way it is.
Yeah.
I'm
That's
not,
what you're starting to see in college sports as well. I mean, all of these people who weren't used to NIL and the transfer portal and stuff like that are retiring or resigning. And, you
Yep.
know, again, you're seeing the people who said, well, I guess this is just kind of the way it is.
Yeah.
yeah. Well, I mean, I generally am suspicious of anything that says the game is going to hell because it isn't being played the way I like it to be played. Which
Absolutely.
Well,
when
especially,
you
I
ask
mean,
them what was baseball's golden age, it almost inevitably
When
would
we
be
were 12 years
When
when
old.
you were
twelve.
12 years
Yep,
old. Yeah.
absolutely.
between 8 and 22
Yeah.
when they were young enough to
Yep.
appreciate the game and when they graduated from college. That's
I mean,
almost
Sure
with,
always what it is.
I'm
with
sure they said it was going to hell when the bounce home run was outlawed, you know.
probably,
Hmm.
Which happened over 2 years over two different leagues too.
yeah.
So no, I mean, yeah, I that's the old kind of old fuddy-duddyism that I try to reject that, and if my thing is, sure, I'd like to see more balls in play, and that's not an easy thing to do, and you can't tell teams don't use analytics. You can't say they shouldn't use them because I don't like them. You're not going to convince the team otherwise. Even though fewer balls and plays makes an official scorer's job way easier. The thing that I would probably do first is just tone down the god dang bullshit noise, and I'm talking visual and audio noise, and let people enjoy a damn ball game.
Yeah.
But that's not going to
I
happen
could
either.
go for that. I'm an old fuddy duddy. I could go for that.
Yeah,
I like just
it
being
doesn't
at the
make you.
park. Maybe have an organ, nice organ, just playing softly.
Yeah, but they think they're the damn show in all sports. They think this is what people came from, and
Yeah.
nobody's just putting the brakes on it. They go, what Bill Vex said is absolutely true. If you try to cater just to the people who really are fans, you're going to go broke. Of course, yeah, that's a given. But does that mean that you have no consideration for the fans who are there to watch the game?
Yeah.
But that's kind of the way it is. So
Yeah, well, the Tigers put in a new sound system, I think it was 2 years ago, and the complaints have been voluminous about the volume, the loudness in the ballpark, but I don't see it having any effect. The same way many people complain about loud restaurants, loud,
Yeah.
the noise level in restaurants to the
Yeah.
point where some food critics and restaurant reviewers are noting the noise level. I don't see that it's changing the restaurant scene.
Yeah. Well, I the complaint I have at the ballparks is okay, you've got these, expensive, loud sound systems that do these amazing things, but when it comes time for the changes, the batting changes, it's still mumbled that you can only half hear at best. Like, that they just, something going on. Oh, here's the replacements, and you kind of partially get the names. It's like, yeah, so you can fix the sound system for the music and the space age stuff, but you can't fix it for the actual in-game announcer who is telling you what's going on. To me, that's priorities are in the wrong place.
That's the old Saturday Night Live joke. They went to the New York Transit System School of Announcing.
Yes. Yes.
Anyone remember that? It was a
Yeah.
great.
Yes,
Yes.
absolutely. Yep. Row, 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 row.
Yes.
I also remember
Believe me, that's
the
what they used to
episode of
be
How I
like
Met
back
Your
in the
Mother where they
70s,
said
80s too.
that the
Hang on,
you
we're
can
getting a
tell.
lot of crosstalk.
Oh, I also remember the How I
and
Met Your Mother episode where they said you're a true New Yorker when you can understand the subway announcements.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. Bob, you were speaking. You want to say something?
No, I just said that's what it was absolutely like in the 70s and 80s, though, to try to understand those subway announcements, though.
Oh, my first time ever on a subway was 1972, going from the south side of Chicago to Wrigley, and getting on and not knowing where I was. And somehow I had the idea like this is a bullet train that I'm going to be there in 3 seconds and I'm going to overshoot it. And I'm bugging some guy about my age, another teenager that who was nice enough to, yeah, Addison Street. And finally, I see people getting on wearing Cubs hats, and I realize, you know what, I'm just going to follow these people. But
Yeah.
I sure wasn't. And then it was also one of the greatest sights that I've ever saw because we were above ground when we pull up to Addison from the
Yeah.
south,
You
and I
see it.
saw Wrigley Field, and that was one of the most memorable sights I've ever had. But I figured it out, but certainly going to the game, you're getting on with a bunch of people wearing Cubs hats. It can't be too difficult. Follow them.
Yep.
Yeah, that site is like not unlike the number 4 train coming out of that tunnel when you approach Yankee Stadium, though, on the Lexington Avenue Express. Actually,
Oh yeah, it's a beautiful
first
sight.
time on that was impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, are we at an impasse here and wrap it up?
Have we solved the world's problems?
We haven't solved the world's problems, but I
No.
don't think we're trying too hard.
Who are the big
Yeah, I
free
mean,
agents coming up
the,
this off season?
It's
it's
not pitching wise. There's not much. There's Ronger Suarez and the guy Valdez, the guy on Houston, and then the drop off is considerable. There's hitters. There's Kyle Tucker. There's a few of them up there. There's more hitters than pitchers, but
Isn't
that
Dylan
was the
Cease
question
up?
I was going to throw to the Detroit people because I keep hearing rumors about a pitcher on Detroit who they think is going to be on the trade market. Scooble.
Scooble? Well,
He
there's
I've been hearing
rumors.
rumors that they think the Tigers are going to put Scooble on the trade market in the offseason. Are
sell
you
high,
hearing anything like that?
sell high, buy low.
There's 29 other teams that want him on the trade market. They're I don't see them doing that. I think they're going to play their hand out, and they're just going to ride the season with them. Because when did you ever get? I mean, it's very rare that you get what you deserve with your player. I mean, I'm still waiting for Matt Laporta to break out.
Hey,
It'll
so
happen
am
any
I.
day. Any
Yeah.
day.
And so I think there would be a revolt in Detroit. They've turned their tide of attendance. It was actually
Yeah.
up this year after several years of going in the wrong direction. I mean, they think they're going to be pretty good. They're going to try to fix Flaherty. Reese Olson will be back and healthy.
Uh-huh.
They've got
And it's a good farm system, isn't it? That's my
Yeah,
understanding
very
that you've
good,
got
yeah.
help coming.
yeah, that's ranked 1 or 2. The problem is their top guys are all second basemen, so we're not sure. I will tell you this: if I thought a trade would happen, I would see Colt Keith getting traded. He signed a long-term deal when he was still in the minors, and the problem is is that he doesn't really play second base great. He's
Yeah.
average at third. Torkelson played well enough at first. He's not going to play first, but our top two or three of our guys are second, actually three. Hanyu Lee, who was at Toledo, Max Anderson, a kid from Nebraska, is a second baseman, and they're not sure about Kevin McGonigal, who's like the number 1 or 2
Yeah.
prospect. It's
He's
either a
supposed to
second or
really be
short,
good.
but you've got Javi Baez at short, who actually his defense was okay this year at short. So I'm thinking,
Wasn't he better at center? I thought that's part of the reason he started hitting, because they challenge him. They put him out in the outfield. It's a different look, and he was fresh because of it.
you know, that's the mental aspect, and I don't
Yeah.
discount that at all. The other thing is the Tigers have like 7 people to play outfield. They got Wencel Perez, Riley Green, Kerry Carpenter, Parker Meadows, Matt Vierling, who missed almost all, but he had like 12 games this year.
Yeah.
So they're going to have to make some trades, but I don't see Skubal being that. I think they'll play it out, and then they'll take the draft choice, which they draft really well under the Scott Harris regime. And somebody that I know in the organization, they're not tied to the players end, but somebody that would know said, hey, don't discount the Tigers swooping in at the last minute and matching a Dodger, Mets, or Yankees bid for Skubal. So Scott Harris has been really good at drafting, really good at development, and so at trading. So I think people are worried that he's the new kid on the block, and somebody like Dave Dombrowski will take him to the cleaners.
Uh-huh.
Well,
No,
Dombrowski's got a
reasonable
long
approach.
track record
Yeah.
of signing people to enormous contracts that play out badly at the end, but he's gone before that happens, so it wouldn't surprise me. No, I think the least likely thing with Skubal is the Tigers sign him to a long-term deal. The most likely thing is they keep him next year, all year, and then take their chances afterward.
Yeah.
But there is also the intermediate thing where if they're not playing exceptionally well, they decide to trade him in July.
Okay, that would make, to me, that would make more sense as an approach, because you've made the playoffs two reasons. Yeah, there's no reason just to like give up on the season before it's even started, because of
Yeah,
that would be like, you'd be
if they're in a situation next year where Skubal is pitching well, he's not injured and he's pitching well, and they're not in legitimate contention,
yeah. Then you
the
cash him in,
fans,
and you'd still get a good return for that guy. You're trading him to teams who literally are looking at this guy can not only we're going to be in the playoffs. This guy can give us the championship. That's worth a lot. You'd get a lot, even midway through next year.
the fans are going to be upset. I mean,
Yeah.
I think that if the Tigers go to the World Series next year, whether they win it or not, or even at least go to Game 6 of the ALCS, and then Skubal walks, especially if he walks and he gets the kind of money he wants, I expect the minimum would be 400 million.
Yeah.
I think the fans will understand that, and I think will have faith in the Tigers' ability to draft. The Harris has taken advantage of some of the good picks that Al Avila made. And in fact, people want to give Avila credit. They say, well, how about all these, the picks he's made? I'm going, hey, if you finish last every year or almost last and you have a very high draft pick, you should make good picks.
Yeah.
Right? So it's credit in the sense, yeah, he didn't completely flame out, but you shouldn't give too much credit to a guy who finishes last and therefore gets some good players.
Yeah.
Bob, you want to say something? Bob? No. Okay.
I think he was just playing some music for us. So
Right. So, okay.
no,
Well,
thank you. That was
we're down to 15. Unless anyone wants to say something to wrap up, I think we'll call it a night. Does anyone want to put a coda on the evening?
Gary, I have one question going way back to the first part of the meeting. You referred to how how this World Series might affect the as I understood it, the collective bargaining agreement. Could you elaborate a little bit on that?
Well, I'm not the only one who thinks this, and there are prominent people like Jeff Passan of ESPN who've been writing this, that if the Dodgers win, it's going to strengthen the hand of I don't want to say small market because they're not all small market, but it's going to strengthen the hand of the clubs that aren't competitive, and frankly, ones like the Pirates and Marlins and Athletics who don't want to spend enough to compete.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to strengthen their hand calling for a salary cap. And if the Dodgers don't win the World Series after spending all that money, combined with the Mets not even making the playoffs after spending more money than God or the Dodgers, then it's going to strengthen the hands of people who say, hey, we don't need a salary cap. What you need is better management and ownership that's willing to spend. And frankly, there's a good argument for that. The Padres make a good argument that what you really need is management that's in it for the long haul
Yeah.
and willing to spend what it takes. I think that the ownership of the Pirates and the Marlins and the Athletics is just terrible for the game. And I
Well,
don't for a second believe that it's going to change in Las Vegas with the Athletics, assuming they even get there.
but what would really have to go with that is a floor. I mean, if you want to affect those teams spending so little relative to the top spending teams, then you've got to put a floor in effect.
Right.
And the other caps and the other team sports don't quite function the way I think you would want to do it in baseball.
Right. And I think there's another good argument, which is baseball already has a cap. It's a soft cap.
Mm-hmm.
It's a
Yes.
meaningful cap. You look at how much money the Dodgers and the Mets are going to pay in penalties this year.
Yeah.
That's not chicken feed. And there are many clubs that will not go over the luxury tax threshold. And if they do, they're not going to do it 2 years in a row.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's
for
the
one
Cubs.
thing, it has
Cubs are
restrained
like that.
the Yankees spending.
Yeah.
And so baseball does have a soft cap, and the union has agreed to that. I think if the owners really go to the mat, if they make it absolutely hard cap, nothing else will satisfy them. I think we see half or more of the 27th season down the drain.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's what it is. I mean, people are saying the Dodgers don't win it all, combined with the Mets. And if the Mets made it to the NLCS or something, it'd be different. But combined with the Mets, blowing it, that they think the argument will be hard to make that you need a salary cap. And the implication is that now of course, Manfred will do what he's told, but the implication is Manfred's not anxious to make that the issue that defines the negotiations, because what he really wants is to push the centralizing TV rights, offering this gigantic package of centralized rights after 28, and then redistributing that income, which probably means the end of traditional revenue sharing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I think is the issue he wants to focus his time on, not on a giant work stoppage to get a salary cap. But he'll do what he's told.
But I do think that one of the challenges with a salary cap is what really counts as revenue. And I don't think the players trust Manfred and the owners to actually come forth with a really accurate picture of what the revenues are that are flowing to the teams.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, there is that. I mean, there's always the related income component. I mean, many teams are as interested in their real estate play as they are in winning.
Yep.
And that's partly because the real estate component is not subject to revenue sharing. Then you have ownership like the Red Sox, who made boku bucks on the Red Sox, and they spent it on auto racing and soccer because they're not that money they invest there and the profits they generated are not subject to revenue sharing. It's a complicated thing, but I think the real battle in revenue sharing is not getting accurate numbers. I think the real battle is how you define the revenue. How do you define the pie, which is to be split
Right.
up? I don't think the owners can meaningfully cheat on the figures, on what they take in, and that I think that's pretty easy to verify. But the real battle is what counts as revenue that's subject to revenue sharing, or to the percentage of revenue the defined percentage that goes to the players.
Mm-hmm.
How do you define that? And that once you define it, the accounting, I think, now maybe I'm wrong. I don't follow the NBA or NFL or the NHL closely, so maybe I'm wrong. I don't think the battle is, are those numbers accurate? The battle is, what defines the pie which we get our share of.
Yeah,
I would agree with that. That's really the question is what counts.
yeah,
Yeah, and I don't know. I mean, the players are getting now less of a share percentage of the overall revenue than they used to, but that's a risk they took in, not going for a defined percentage. Manfred is now making hay with that. He is saying, well, you guys would have been better off taking the offer we gave you because you're not getting as big a percentage as you should. And it's a really weird argument for the commissioner to make because, of course, the commissioner represents the owners, not the players.
yeah.
But I am worried because I remember back in '93, the owners really thought they could break the union, and look at what that led to. And I can't tell you whether they can, but the owners really do believe the union is soft enough that they could break the union.
Yeah.
So, Ed, you want to comment on that?
No, I think, I just wouldn't trust. I don't trust Manfred's figures on saying that,
Oh, yeah.
That they
should you?
left a lot of money on the table, because his role is to make sure the owners keep as much money for themselves as they possibly can and not give it to players. And I think if the players thought that there was any shred of truth to what he was saying a number of years ago, then they would have been more open to the kind of structure that football and hockey and basketball have.
Right. I'm sorry. Well, I didn't mean to imply that the numbers that MLB gives out now about their profits are verifiable. They're not verifiable and they're not true. They're completely whatever the owners want it to be. I mean, some of us are old enough here to remember what Paul Beeston said, right? And it's still true, except instead of what did he say? I could take a $4 million profit and make it look like a $2 million loss, and every accounting firm would agree with me. But now it would
Yeah.
be a $40 million profit or a $60 million profit and make it look like a $2 million loss. Um, and of course, there's the related income. Well, back when Tom Monahan owned the Tigers, just a trivial example, he flew around on the Domino's corporate jet, and the rumors was that the corporate jet, even though that he only used it a small portion of time for Tigers business, and the Tigers were paying all the expenses. And you look at all the companies like the Ilitch family has, all the different companies, how much they charge an entity they're related to for something, who knows what that is. But I don't expect the players to be willing to agree to it. I just can't tell how strong the union is. In '93, I was close enough. I lived in Philadelphia, I was close enough to the Phillies, and the Phillies were really important because in previous work stoppages, the Phillies have been sort of the bellwether in the middle. And when the Phillies said, it's not worth losing the rest of the season, we have to settle, is when the owner settled. And the Phillies that year were in the Hawks camp. They thought they could split the union open and drive a wedge between some of the players, and some of them, like Lenny Dykstra, would cross the picket line. And when they did that, I knew we were in for a really bad result. But I'm not that close to, to people inside the clubs anymore. And so I can't really evaluate, and I'm not that close to the union anymore, where I, hear things that people will say privately, but they won't say publicly. So I'm really pessimistic about 27. So, okay. Well, I think we've run out of steam. I thank you all for showing up and participating. It was a fun discussion from my point of view. I'll look forward to seeing you guys again in the spring. And send comments if you have them. Otherwise, we'll enjoy watching the rest of the World Series.
World Series.